Hi everybody, it's Mark, the Family Woodworker. Hey, this week we design and build a men's Valet box out of spalted and ambrosia maple, but it could just as easily be designed as a women's jewelry box too. The best part about the build is that it's going to include a secret compartment that'll require a magnetic key to actually get it open. So we hope you like our video and we hope you stick around to the end to see how all the pieces and parts fit together. I'm going to start with some ambrosia maple and repurpose some spalted maple from a previous project. My outer box dimensions are going to be 13 by 10 inches and 5¼ inches deep. It will feature a secret hidden bottom tray and another upper valet tray above the false bottom for sunglasses and other trinkets. I'll salvage as much of the prettier spalting as I can for the box lid and use the wider ambrosia maple, also called wormy maple, for the main part of the box. My plan is to make the cuts so that the wood grain discolorations match on the corners and wrap around the box. Measuring out the final rip cuts to feature as much of the ambrosia staining as possible, I cut the box sides down to 5¼ inches. I've mentioned before in other videos that I don't have a jointer in my shop, but a 60-tooth trim blade on a well-calibrated table saw gives me a pretty clean edge for glue up. With some tape to cover the openings on the underside of each board, I'll fill the beetle holes with darkened epoxy. It's not quite a proctological exam, but the maple might feel a bit, well, violated. To make the inner hidden tray, I'll build the outer box with some small pieces of walnut ripped down into 1/2-inch widths. His leg injury is doing a lot better. And he smells visitors, even through the snow. Junk mail. Ooh, woodcraft. Ooh, grizzly catalog. Awesome. I calibrated the table saw again for a 45-degree bevel cut on the main box, and plan to add some walnut splines after the sides are glued together. I switched over to a 1/4-inch dado stack to cut a channel to receive a floating bottom. Sometimes in the middle of the build you come up with an idea that might be cool on the project, and I thought a hidden positive message might be awesome on the inside of the hidden tray. So I came up with some language that resonated with me, and the laser engraver was perfect for putting that message into wood. After routing out a rabbet to leave a 1/4 inch tab, it will float nicely inside the main part of the box. The trouble with changing a design in the middle of a build is that you have to fix a couple of things along the way. Since this center chunk of walnut covers up the new message, I'll have to cut out the center and build a small spalted frame in the middle of the tray to highlight that message. I secured the inner frame with walnut dowels and the bottom tray is finished. I'll build the upper Valet tray out of the wormy maple with 1/8 inch maple on the bottom and custom walnut dividers on the inside. I also had a couple watches I wanted to mount inside the box and thought a 2 inch by 2 inch set of tapered blocks would work pretty well to hold up the back of the watch and still allow room for the band to fit over the block. I'll get them spaced evenly on the left side of the box and then hold them in place with 5/8 inch dowels. More on the dowel configuration in a minute. For the top tray, I had to find a way to hold it up just below the top of the box. Using these 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch walnut bars, I'll glue and screw them in place. The watch blocks will hold in a glue dowel, though there won't be any glue holding the block to the inside wall of the box. In order for the hidden bottom to work and allow access to the bottom tray, we'll need to be able to remove these watch blocks. With the 2 trays constructed, it was a good time to finish them and be able to set them aside. This neutral tone Danish oil gets used a ton in our shop. It's an easy wipe-on finish, and if you sand your surfaces down to 320 grit, it'll dry with a smooth satin finish, slightly darkening the figure in the wood, which looks perfect on spalted and ambrosia maple. Well, it was finally time to glue the main box together, though I almost forgot to insert the oak base and the floating bottom tray too. Once I got my head screwed on straight, it was easy enough to get the pieces inserted and the mitered corners glued up. Though the bottom tray divider is just snugly fit into the box, it can't be removed without pulling off the upper tray rails. So for all practical purposes, it's permanent. The 4-corner band clamp is a great tool for pulling box or frame corners together, and I thought I would test fit the upper tray once more to make sure everything was good to go. A couple final cuts were needed on the spalted maple top, bringing down the overall dimensions to 13.5 by 10.5, leaving a 1/4 inch overhang on all edges of the box. I also cut a 45-degree bevel on half the thickness of the top as a decoration, and finished the edges by chamfering the bottom edges with a block plane. Now that the glue was dry on the main box, I could cut in 3 1/8 inch splines on all corners of the box. Every now and then I love the little GoPro camera for a close-up like this. Happy little walnut triangles did a fine job filling the gaps, and after a few more hours of drying time, I could flush cut the excess and chisel off any remaining high spots. A small hand plane would have worked here too. For the box hinge, I wanted to try something new, and I ordered this set of 10mm barrel hinges. I used a drill template to ensure that the holes were in alignment, but something wasn't quite right. Even one of the hinges was losing some of its internal pins, and it forced me to dump the entire idea. I filled in the holes and came up with a solution that would hide the mistake and solve the hinge problem too. Enter the trusty piano hinge. I set my router up with a flat cutting head and was careful to take out just a thin cut deep enough to cover the hinge. There was a little cleanup needed with a chisel, but the cut channel was consistent and mostly ready for the hinge. The top cut was inset by a 1/4 inch to allow for an even overhang on all box edges. A little more cleanup of those routed edges and I could add the hinge to the top. And now for the trickery. To create the false bottom that covered the bottom tray, I chose to use some 1/8 inch oak plywood, but it simply can't fit tightly inside the box as the upper tray rails and the watch blocks would prevent its removal. So a fabric hinge was added down a center cut on the length of the plywood, allowing it to fold upwards if pulled. But how do you pull up on a flat surface without a handle? I added a recessed steel pin in the center of the plywood. It's the kind of 2-piece pin that you find while making knife handles. But a flat steel pin needs something to pick it up. So a rounded piece of walnut cut on the lathe will serve as a nice receptacle for a rare earth magnet. Once glued in place, it does a nice job picking up the pin, even though it's flat against the surface of the plywood. Hey, it's time for final finishing, assembly, and a demonstration. The hinge was set up to allow the top to rest in the upright position, while the upper tray works pretty well for sunglasses, a couple bracelets, and even the tie tacks I don't wear too much anymore. The doweled 2-inch blocks are pretty easily removed, but do a nice job performing their part in hiding the false bottom. Once you clear out the false bottom, the magnet key will grab the steel pin, allowing you to lift and fold the base to reveal the hidden tray underneath. It's a good place to hide some other collectibles and to reveal your own personal mantra too. The grain match edges of the box look awesome. In fact, the whole project turned out better than I expected, although it took quite a bit longer than I expected. But hey, gang, I hope you really liked the video, you give us a thumbs up, and you consider subscribing to our little channel too. Take care.